So again, really glad that everybody's back. So this is the third meeting. Councilmember Hauser is taking her paper back. That's good. So here's the way it's going to work tonight. I want to make sure that you all knew what we sent out over the last week or so, and then tell you a little bit about what's on the table, and then we'll go over the agenda for tonight, which includes an hour for you all to be in small groups. I know that you all have kind of spread out, but I would encourage you to get around where you can talk to some people. And we're going to try specifically tonight to help Jay Survey, who is sitting over there against the wall, who has been designated to develop a plan to deal with outdoor homelessness. Okay? So that was the whole concept behind this thing, was bringing people together, because we didn't necessarily have a plan, a specific plan to deal with it. The mayor has tasked Mr. Survey to actually get that done, and what you're going to be doing tonight is giving him recommendations for the for the first 120 days. Well, we're not going to have time because we have to get out. No. Thank you. All right, so for the first 120 days, this is specific recommendations that you're going to make to Jay, that we're going to hand to him and the Homeless Planning Council so we can get this thing moving. So Chris is exactly right. It's time to get something done, okay? So let me tell you a little bit about what we've done. We sent you all a report. We'll go through it. If you came to the first two meetings and signed up, you should have gotten a 9-item report that was requested at the second meeting. We'll go through that in just a minute. The second thing you have on your table, you've got a letter from Mayor Cooper to me that came out last Wednesday. Excuse me. In that letter, he basically very much requests that any information, any of the recommendations that we have get coordinated through the Homeless Planning Council, okay? The response back from me says that's fine. We are more than happy to give it to the Homeless Planning Council. We are more than happy to give it to Jay. The whole idea is to coordinate our efforts and make sure we're not duplicating anything. We just want to get something done. Now, Kathy Jennings from The Contributor just walked in. If you'll look at that letter, and we're going to talk about the first point in just a minute. If you remember from the first meeting, or the second meeting, one of the major requests was to get that temperature at 28 degrees lifted to 32 degrees. If you notice in my letter, that's what I asked the mayor to go ahead and do, okay? Because it has to be coordinated through Metro Social Services, through the Homeless Impact Division, but that's something we can do right now. So we'll see if that happens or not, okay? But, and then there was one other sheet that's been put on the table that was put by, I think, the Reclaim Brookmead Park folks. Becky, where's Becky? Becky, what is that? What is the sheet? Because I didn't get a chance to take a look at it.
We've got a couple of sheets just to give you all some visuals. We've done a lot of research of what's been working around the country. Other cities are successfully putting together communities of shelter pods. Frequently they're using a company called Pallet Shelter. We have some pallet shelters here in Nashville, but that's irrelevant. It's just the fact that they are working. We're wondering why the city's not doing that yet. And we'd like to see them do that because we think that the way for success in this whole mission is to create community so that these folks can be accessed, easily accessible by the service providers, and get mental health care. We believe that mental health care and abuse, addiction are two big issues. So we've identified some land. We don't know if this land will work or not, but this is unused Metro land that you could put these shelter pods on. You could put 500 shelter pods about 50 feet apart from each other on about 30 acres, and supposedly that would house all the homeless in Nashville. Our numbers may be a little off, but you're also welcome to take this these attachments which have pictures of successful shelter pods around the country. We think this is a good approach. We think it's an immediate approach. The pods can be put together quickly, and we just want to remind everybody that this whole charrette was put together to address outdoor homelessness. We agree that long-term housing is definitely important, but we do not believe it is the focus right here and now. Right here and now, we've got to get these folks out of the encampments, out from under the bridges, and into a room with a locking door and a bed, so that they can survive and be happy, hopefully, again.
Okay, so it is, we're almost on time, so welcome and purpose. Remember again, the purpose of this whole thing was to create a short-term and long-term plan to deal with outdoor homelessness. All right, first meeting, we had everybody in small groups, if you remember. People came up with a lot of good overall ideas. The second night, we were trying to morph it into one plan. That was more difficult. So this time around, what we're going to try to do is, with the understanding that Jay is working on a plan, which is what this whole thing was all about anyway, we're going to turn it over to you all in about 15 minutes, let you work in small groups, and come up with specific recommendations that you want to give to that man over there and the Homeless Planning Council as they devise a plan to deal with outdoor homelessness. Yeah, John.
Is somebody from the Homeless Planning Council coming to be part of this conversation?
So you've got people who are on the Homeless Planning Council here. Laura Bermudez was invited. I'm not sure if she's going to make it tonight. I didn't see her come in. Okay. But you do have people that are here. Everything that's taken down, any of the information is going to be given to the Homeless Planning Council, okay, and to Jay. So again, look, part of this whole idea was I didn't feel like anything, I couldn't find a plan. And then I started talking to people and I still couldn't find it. I knew there were strategic plans out there, and we sent everybody a copy of the strategic plan from the Homeless Planning Council, okay? So everybody who signed up before got that. But I was concerned about outdoor homelessness, that specific part. And so part of this whole thing was bring everybody together and let's get something moving. If we have to create it ourselves, let's get something moving. That was difficult. We knew it was going to be difficult coming in. But we've got some momentum. We've got somebody who's been assigned to work on it. Your job tonight is to tell him what you think should be in it. Yeah?
Weren't they already assigned to work on it before and they haven't done that? Hasn't HPC been ineffective?
I don't think the Homeless Planning Council has been ineffective. No, they've got a strategic plan. I think,
Why should we trust them now?
well, so that's probably not a fair question for me to answer, but I will tell you this, and then I'm going to turn it over to Kathy. We're all in this together, okay? I mean, we can go back and talk about things that have been done and not been done. I mean, people last time were blaming everybody for stuff. We can go backwards and we can talk a lot about what hasn't been done. But John, for the first time in a long time, I feel like maybe we're headed in the right direction. Well, Homeless Planning Council, I've got some people here. There are some people here, and they know. Okay. Well, we do have representatives. So let me turn over to Kathy. Kathy, you want a microphone?
No, I got a big voice.
Okay, so hold on. So Kathy Jennings has the floor.
Yeah. All I want to say is we can look back, right? We can look back and we can say, oh, they're not here, the plan's been ineffective. I have looked through, they have done a great job, okay? Writing a strategic plan that meets HUD requirements, and mind you, that's where money comes from. You can't do anything without money. Is a difficult thing to do. But they are two separate items. And the problem is we've never had enough people paying attention to that plan. Okay, we got a room full of people now. We need to keep the momentum rolling. Quit pointing fingers. We will lose momentum if we point fingers. We need to move forward with a plan. Right, April? Absolutely.
Okay, my name's Howard Allen. We got something that needs to be talked about. I didn't make the first two meetings because I get tired of coming to meetings. But anyway, I came especially for Jim. But anyway, last week we had to cancel a homeless memorial because of the weather. and me being formerly homeless for 17, 18 years out on the street, we cannot postpone the weather. We have to adapt. I would like for something to happen now because of climate change. When we have tornadoes coming and we know it's coming, can we get some kind of facility that opens up to bring us in when we know it's a tornado and they're not afraid of if the building gets torn down, they're going to be sued for liability. I've been dealing with this for a while. I was one of the first homeless commissioners under Bill Purcell. I hope you are changed, Jay. But I've heard so much and seen so much, and I'm not pointing fingers. This is what I live. As you heard it said. But we need to bring people in, not waiting 28 degrees because it's going to take a minute. But when we know we have a tornado coming, 24 hours, what can we do to bring the people in so they can go into these little houses? And that's a good idea because they're doing it in Austin, Texas, Loaves and Fishes, and that will work. And many times, and it hurts me in my heart because I was one of the first people, and I don't want to point fingers, saying that the government has land. They could have gave it to us a long time ago. But I'm here now to be proactive and not be negative. And if you want to talk to me or whatever, because this is a face, and I'm 60 years of age, so I'm blessed to be living. I've lost a tooth, but I still look pretty good.
I think you look very good. Okay, so I'm going to watch my time. We're going to try to hold it together. I'm going to go here, and then back to Becky, okay?
I just had a quick question. While we're doing the working session, will you be giving an overview of the link that was sent before we go into the small group sessions? That 2019 plan?
Yes, the one that we just passed out on the tables. Jim didn't know about it. He knew we were going to do something, but we went and passed it out. You talking about the green?
Are you going to do an overview before we break out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something I haven't seen, so, okay. Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Anthony Jackson. This is my first time here. I heard it on the news, and I wanted to participate because I'm homeless. And I'm on foot, and I'm out here, and I know what's going on. And one of the things that's going on, these agencies, IRS, Food Stamp Office, ID, we need to have them come down to, I think I know Ms. Carey from the mission, but they need to come at least 1 or twice a week to help us get IDs, different things. I had an all-day pass that I got from the room in the inn, and I worked the whole system. I went to the Social Security office, I went to the Food Stamp office, all doors were shut. I even went to Jim Cooper office next door, but I couldn't get in. We don't see nobody because of COVID-19. But what I'm trying to address, get somebody to help us, come down there and actually talk to us. There's some real people in these facilities that really need help, including myself. And I've been diagnosed with sciatica. I can't work no more because I can't walk no more. The IRS told me somebody stole my identity. I need to see them. I went to the IRS. They made me take off my belt, my boot, my shoes. I get to the IRS door, they said, we're not seeing nobody. So I go to the food stamp office. They tell me about a job that I never even worked. And somebody that stole my identity, they working for me because I ain't been to work in 3-4 weeks. But I don't know what to do or who to talk to even get some help. And I just almost want to give up. But I said, I'm gonna have to do something. You know what I'm saying? I know Ms. Carey, she do the best she can, but trying to keep a roof on people's head. But she always been real nice to me at the mission. But it's things going on. You know what I'm saying? But everybody trying to make it. And you know, people migrating, but they just need some actually agencies that come down to help and actually show their face and not a recording. Press 1 for this, 2 for this, and 3 for that. And you still don't get no answer. Stay on the phone 2 hours trying to talk to the Social Security office. They just gave me a little piece of paper and pushed me out the door. They didn't even let me in the door. This is a security guard came and gave me a piece of paper. But I'm tired of not talking to a human being. Let me talk to somebody that can help me file my Social Security and do this and do that, what I need to do to get ID and all of that. But we don't have no help like that. I want to make sure that you know that there's people out here that really need the help. Now you got mental health patients, you got people that's supposed to be in a nursing home. You know what I'm saying? All of this, she's trying to keep them warm. But they don't need to be around these criminals. You know what I'm saying? This is criminal. They got to keep warm too. But you can house who you can, but some of them got to go.
That's
You
right.
know what I'm saying? You got to make them responsible, or you're gonna have plenty problems. You just building up a nest that's gonna blow up. So I'm telling you, please, somebody help. You gotta keep them warm, but at the same time, they don't want no help. They want to keep doing drugs. They want to keep drinking. They want to keep doing what they do, but eventually it's gonna blow up in your face if you don't give them no responsibility and stuff for their actions. If you do something wrong, it needs to be a consequence.
Well,
Thank you.
so Anthony, right? So thank you for talking to us. I know Kathy gave you her card. I'll give you my card. So some of this may involve working with Congressman Cooper's office as well. So we'll help. But I'm really glad you're here, and we need your input because it's very important. Okay. Let me go there, and then where?
It's almost 6 o'clock, just letting you know.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go here, and then Becky, I'll come back to you, and then we're going to try to get started at 6. Okay.
I don't need your mic.
No.
Hi, my name is Bone. I come from Thailand. I came
Okay.
here married in 1980.
Here you go.
And
They apparently needed it, so they can cover you.
How you doing?
It's on. It should be on.
My name is Bone Busisipon. I'm from Thailand, and my uncle is the pastor of Lighthouse Church of Bell Road. You know, I hear all these fancy graving and stuff like that. Even the homeless starts with us, people that cares. I've been out there helping the homeless people since I was 16 years old, and I'm 48. I was out there before all these private organizations even started. I'm out there with backpack, food, and everything. I hear these people cry. I hear these people asking, is there a guide out there? And they asking me all that. That tornado hit. Me and my fiance was down there in that tornado volunteering for these homeless people. And no, the police officer didn't even care. The mayor's office didn't even care. This private organization didn't even care. They make themselves look good on the news. It was me, my firefighter friend, came down there to help clean up. Red Cross didn't even know they was down there until I had to go chase them down. Y'all want to end the homeless? Start with y'all's heart. And you know, not just the homeless. What about these homeless women that's getting raped? I just talked to 2 women, me and her, that's got raped. And when they called the cops, you know what the cops said? They're homeless women. There was a woman that died under that bridge, and I went out there, and you know what the cops was doing? Walking around her body and laughing. And then the cops was called again. They said, we can't do nothing, sir, because she's homeless. If I wish I could record it so I could play it for y'all what the cop just said. You know, y'all want to end homeless, man? Be real. The money that the mayor's office donate to y'all, quit putting in y'all's pocket. Because there's human beings out here. It's not about dollar bill, it's about human beings. If y'all care only for them for Christmas, care for them every day. You got homeless veterans out here that fought for this country, but y'all walk past them and spit on them. Come on, you know, I came to this meeting because I cared. I don't make money from these homeless people because I don't want to. My church says Hebrews chapter 6, I work for a powerful man named Jesus Christ. And that's who I'm gonna work for. Y'all act like y'all go home, close doors. That man, and when they call the cops, you know what the cops gonna do? Go to Dunkin' Donuts and drink their coffee and eat their donuts. I'm being real.
We hear you.
And I see these crooked cops.
You're preaching to the choir in this room.
What I'm saying is, if y'all want help, y'all want to end this homeless, let's start with y'all's heart. Just because y'all from private organization, y'all say y'all gonna do it, that's a lie. I used to work for a church. They don't do it. They just want to take a picture of the receipt, send it to the Vice Mayor, and then that's it. But you know, half of these homeless people know me. I'm out there night and day with them under the bridge. I call volunteers come down there and feed them and everything, but they thank me, but they thank me the wrong person. I'm just there to be a servant of God, to help people out. And that's what I like doing. The vice mayor and the mayor don't know what's going on now unless they're out there talking to these people, shaking these homeless people's head. They're not homeless people, they're unhoused guests. This is the people, fathers and mothers out there. Y'all want to do something, just don't do it on Christmas. Do it every day, like I do it every day. You know, where's our heart at? Is it just for Christmas?
No, sir.
Or every day? Well, let's act like it every day.
Thank you. Okay, so last comment, and then we're going to go quickly through the agenda. So Becky, you got the microphone?
Thank you, Jim. Real quick, most of y'all know who I am. I started Reclaim Brookmead Park, and I hear it all the time. A lot of this is only happening because a bunch of people over on West Nashville make a lot of noise. Yes, that's true, but that doesn't mean all those people weren't making noise for the last 5 years. The difference is we're working in concert. And that's what my hope is, that all the people in this room start to work in concert, okay? We don't have to agree on everything. We have different approaches, but we all recognize that we have a real crisis. I think if we get bogged down on the nitty-gritty, and we hear you, Bone, absolutely, you're totally right. Anthony, you've got real legit concerns about red tape nonsense. We get all that, but we need to focus on a timeline and what we require from our government to provide us with in order to get these people off the street. Yes. And so that they can get help and they can get access to the things that they need. So that is just my point. I wanted to piggyback on what Kathy had said. Was we're all in this together. We need to work in concert. Okay? We're all in this together. I think we want to do the same thing. All right, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, so let me go through the agenda real quick, and then we're going to go through the 9 items really, really fast because they've already been sent to you. I just want to make sure everybody had seen them. All right, so we're review the requested 9 items. That's what I'm going to do really quick. Then everybody's supposed to be in a small group where you can move around and get with another group of people. The focus from 6 to 7 is to focus on specific recommendations that need to be addressed in an initial 120-day plan to address outdoor homelessness. Again, remember, specific recommendations, not, we know we need lots of affordable housing. We know that. But in the first 120 days, what do you think Jay should do in terms of developing a plan to deal with outdoor homelessness? Okay? So we're going to do that from 6 to 7, 7 to 7:50, report back from small groups, and then concluding remarks, and then adjournment at 8 o'clock. All right, let me go through these real quick. Again, if you came to the first 2 meetings, you should have gotten this. Candace, this is what you asked for. There were 9 things, and I think we got them all done. Discuss and advocate for raising the temperature cold weather plan that was done by Kathy Jennings. Shelter committee voted to and approved the request to jump it to 32. And again, it's been given to the mayor's office, given to lots of different people. And again, in my letter, that's what I specifically requested, that the office of the mayor do, raise it to 32 degrees. Item 2 was done by Jay. Start moving the process on utilizing hotels, more in the short term, pushing discussions with Metro purchasing hotels. Jay, I'm not going to read all this stuff, but I know you've been looking at that very, very carefully. And again, you want a lot of stuff. All this stuff has to be done through the Homeless Planning Council. This is working in coordination with them. I know that you're very, very interested in the groups like Shangri-La that are possibly coming in, buying hotels, and then refurbishing them so people can actually live in them.
I had 2 meetings with them since last night.
Okay. Item 3, this was the response I got back from MDHA about utilizing 50%. They're talking about standards that are set by HUD and they can't deviate from them. I know that they do give housing vouchers up front, but they, at this point, are saying that they can't do this 50%, okay? So you can read that. I'm just telling you what they told me. Kathy, you got something?
I would like more clarification on that. We're not asking HUD we're not asking NDHA for new units. We're saying as units come up, there is no preference for people experiencing homelessness. And I don't see how this answers that question. We're
And we certainly do not have to stop. This is the initial information we got for the purposes of the report. Yes, ma'am.
Well, Jim, if I could just really quick.
Yeah. Thank you.
MDHA is really the body you have to go to, not Homeless Planning Council, they don't have a voice.
So NDHA right now can put forward 997 units. You know how they can do that? Simple. The Faircloth Amendment in the 90s said you could not go out and increase the number of authorized affordable housing units. We're entitled right now to 997 new units. 50 units that are being built over there at Cheatham Place are using that very same Faircloth Amendment housing units. They go, they're public housing units, and then they're transferred to Section 8. You are never going to get anything done through the Homeless Planning Council. I'm sorry. You're going to get money from the federal government. And this is the way that you have to do it. You've got to go to MDHA, and they're going to be working on a strategic plan starting in January. You have to go call them and tell them, build those 997 units. These are extremely low income housing units. 997. That's where homeless people are. We haven't done that in this city, and it's a shame we haven't done it. Because Nashville just didn't do it. But if you want to do that, you contact the new person, the new executive director. His name is Troy White. He's just first 100 days. He's from Atlanta. You tell him, I'm Steve Ryder, by the way. You can go call him and say, I heard from Steve Ryder that he said under the Faircloth Amendment, we could have 997 new units. And he'll tell you yes or no. I'm telling you, yes, you can do that. You don't have to do anything as far as anything else. The tenant income will come and will help pay off whether they're bonds or anything else. But we're entitled to that. And if we don't do it, it's a shame on us. That's the solution. I heard Becky talk about 500. Let's go 997. Okay?
We go big. I got it.
Okay, I do not work for MDHA, but I am a Bordeaux resident, and I can tell you from previous meetings over the years in Bordeaux, members of the Bordeaux community said no to more concentrated poverty. Because historically, communities of color, specifically black communities, have been concentrated with poverty, lack of infrastructure, failing schools, and we basically said no. So MDHA made a commitment with their most recent development in our community that it would be market rate. So I'm assuming, just when I read that, that was the first thing that came to mind, is that in black communities, we have said no to more concentrated poverty.
Okay, so again, this is the response back that we got from MDHA. It sounds like there's additional questions and issues from that. Jay, you just hold the microphone?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so again, we're trying to go through this quick. Becky's already discussed the possibility of locating pallet homes in an area that's surplus metro property. That's some of the stuff that is on your desk. And also, in the report that we sent out, there was an attachment. There was also an attachment on the item number 1 that Kathy Jennings had put together. That was the actual motion that was passed by the shelter committee. Item number 5, city needs to break ground on the 90-unit facility. The best I could get was April of 2022. There were follow-up questions that had been sent in to figure out why we can't do it any faster. I don't know whether it's because of the weather. The one thing, and Jay, I'm just telling you this, that scares me is that I haven't seen the plans for this thing. I don't know if anybody else has. I just want to make sure that whatever we do, whatever we build over there makes sense, that we follow best practices, that we don't build something and then realize that we did it wrong. Really want to share it with people like Carrie and other people to make sure that we're actually doing it in the right way, okay? Councilmember Hager just walked in, and I know Councilmember Hauser is here. Next item.
We have 2 council members at this meeting. Out of how many? 35.
No, there's 40 of us.
Oh, sorry, at large.
And some of them are at a budget committee meeting, so I'm just letting you know. Okay, so hold on.
I want to know why there's not more Metro Council people here. I've been to every meeting. I've been to Metro Council meetings, the homeless meeting, and there were 4 people there. from Metro Council.
Well, so I can't answer that question. All we can do is invite you. Okay. Okay. So item number 6, April Calvin had this one, ways to improve utilization of HMIS system. April, I think there was looking at a new vendor. Where did April? There she is. New vendor. I think you already know most about this stuff anyway. I think there's always efforts being made to try to improve this. And again, this is one of those things where I think a lot of groups have to work together to make sure that we're all inputting the data and inputting it correctly. Okay. Item number 7, invite the mayor to the next meeting. Obviously, he is not here, but he did send a letter and he is engaged. Okay, so I'm just letting you know that, he got the list of 9 and he sent me a letter right away. All right. Schedule the next meeting. I did that. Okay. And email report back. Candace had made it very clear that we were supposed to be doing stuff. Where's Candace? There she is. So we got it back to you on Tuesday the 19th. If for some reason you did not get it, let me know and we'll make sure you get a copy of the report. What I will tell you before we switch over to the small groups is that was for your information. That's just the beginning. If you have follow-up questions, just send them back to me and we will try to get those things answered for you. Okay? But the idea was to keep this thing going and make sure you had information in between the meetings. All right. So this is what you're supposed to be doing tonight. So we're a little bit behind, but not too bad. So again, as we said at the beginning, the mayor has instructed Jay Survey to work in conjunction with the Homelessness Planning Council to develop a plan to address outdoor homelessness. It should be the Homeless Planning Council. I think I said that wrong. Okay. Is it homelessness or homeless? Homelessness plan. Okay, I got that right. Okay, I got confused. Okay, so the purpose tonight is to assist Jay in the effort that he has been directed to give him specific recommendations that he needs to consider taking in the first 120 days of a plan to address outdoor homelessness. What specific recommendations should he consider taking in the first 120 days of a plan that addresses outdoor homelessness? What we did that first night was sort of in that goal was short-term and long-term. We're just going to focus on the first 120 days, okay? What we want you to do tonight is to be specific and remember to account for resources. And then the last thing you saw is, you see in the sentence, also address the idea of how decisions are communicated back to the public from the decision makers. Because we keep hearing from everybody that the public doesn't know what's going on, we need to know. So put that in your recommendations. You're also going to have to pick a group leader to report back for the group beginning at 7 p.m. And then we're going to put it all on the board, and then we're going to give it to that man right there. Yes, sir. You want to?
Yeah, I just have 2 questions. The first one is what resources specifically do we have to account for? And then, sorry, okay, I'm just rereading this again. Oh, yes. So it sounds like each of our groups are just kind of creating our suggestions for the first 120 days. Jay is going to receive that feedback, and then he just decides which one he likes. I thought, or at least I assumed that we were coming up with a plan together and just telling him this is what you should be doing. That's what I assumed. Yeah.
Well, it's a good point. So let's. So your first thing was are the resources, right? So the idea is always remember that the city doesn't have unlimited resources. So always got to remember that we've got to consider that in your discussions. So I'm not saying that we don't have resources. I'm just saying that the idea is we're not going to build a dome over the city so everybody stays there. That's not going to work because we don't have the resources.
You're saying account for resources, like what numbers specifically?
You don't have to account for any numbers, but just remember that in your head, okay? So you don't have to say that it's going to cost $100 million to do this. Just realize that we have limited resources in different areas, okay? So I just can't tell you how much money, but we've got ARPA funds, so know that we have money to spend. The second thing is, so the purpose of that first night, if you remember, was short-term, long-term plans. We were desperately trying to come up with a plan. Didn't really work. So this time around, it's like, let's just focus on the short term, be specific. Now, he gets to devise the plan. The mayor has asked him, Jay, to devise the plan. So what you're supposed to be doing is telling him what you think should be in the plan. And then, the purpose of this thing back here, decisions are communicated back. He's gonna have to come back to you all and tell you what's in the plan. I mean, whether he likes it or not, he took this job. His job is to come up with a plan. He needs to convey what's in the plan. And you may not like it at all. I may not like it at all. But his job is to come up with it.
Deciding which one of our plans he likes best.
Well, he's the one that, it's the one that he is gonna put, the mayor didn't ask me to drop a plan. He didn't ask this group to drop a plan. He asked that man right there. But you're sitting here right now with the chance to help devise what should be in that plan. Okay? It's about the best we can do. Yeah.
As we're working in our small groups, if a question comes up and you think that information will be pertinent for everybody to hear, could you answer that question on the microphone so we all can hear it while we're working?
I'll do my best. How about that?
Don't mind giving it back to Howard.
Forgive me, I just want to ask 2 questions. How many people in here have experienced homelessness? Okay, y'all good. Until, I think one of the first moves you need to make in 120 days is you need to get somebody that's been homeless or that's homeless to sit beside you, that has the passion, and that can tell you. Because if we're not out here communicating with the homeless community, we don't know what's going on either. And I'm not up to par to do it like I used to do it, but that's one of the main things you have to do. You got to talk to us and not talk about us.
Right.
Because we're the only ones that can tell you what it's like.
And to answer that, Howard, I have 3 folks that have lived experience that are with me weekly, giving me that advice. Alex, Vicky, and Sheila. I don't know if you know any of those names, but they sit on our boards. They sit in my subcommittees. Kathy, we have them on several subcommittees, and they're with me, guiding me as, because I'm a guy of energy, and I like to go. And you can ask a few people in here from my family history, that's what we do. But I want guidance too. I don't want to go in the wrong direction where it would hurt you more or affect you less, right? So the folks that are experiencing homelessness. So I'll let Jim. Yeah.
Put them on the plan. Okay. All right, so what I would suggest is, well, that gentleman just left because he was by himself. Okay. No, there was another gentleman sitting over here. So get with a group of people. If you're sitting by yourself, move together. There should be, if you don't have paper, there's paper up here. Just raise your hand, I'll bring it back to you. I'm going to give you until, you want 5 after 7? Is that enough time, or you want 10 after 7? 10 minutes after 7? 10 minutes after 7, you got the plan? You got the idea of what you're doing? Go.
Okay, and then let me explain, because I promised Randy something before we start. April, would you mind just cruising over? This is April Calvin. She's the Assistant Director of the Homeless Impact Division, so she's going to go for it.
Hi there, thank you guys. Once I want to say, we're going to connect Mary Margaret with Anthony here. Mary Margaret, raise your hand. We're going to connect Anthony with Mary Margaret to get some services done. I also want to apologize because if there's service providers in here, there's been a lot of work in the last year that's went into housing street level homelessness. So to say that we don't have a plan or we don't have an identity or we don't know what we're doing, I just want to apologize to them because there's a lot of work going on. Nearly 1,800 have been housed in less than a year. The year's not over yet. So also, you have a plan on your table. It's a draft. I don't want anyone to leave here saying that April and Jay created a plan, right? That's not what we're doing. It is a draft that is on your table. 3 pages. The very last page is for your input, questions, comments, concerns, add, delete, whatever you want. We're going to collect them at the end. This plan was designed with best practices in mind through our HUD TA. We took information from the last two charrettes, added it to this plan. We hear you loud and clear, so we want to make sure that you guys know that what comes out of the table level here, we're going to add to this. So the beginning, it's just about, you can't resolve a problem if you don't know what the problem is, right? So my answer in answering HMIS, the more agencies, I want everyone to hear me loud and clear, the more agencies that enter into HMIS, that's where the data lives. That's where the data lives. If we wanted more resources, more money, more opportunity, more effective housing options, we have to have more agencies and providers entering into HMIS. Otherwise, we have a fractured amount of data that we're supporting and providing to HUD in the end. So the beginning, it's just about observation and assessing. So it's a three-part plan: communication, collaboration, and coordination. All three of those things kind of laid out here in front of you. Observation and assessing, and that comes from the HMIS data, boots on the ground with the flex team and outreach teams. There's several agencies here that receive federal dollars to do outreach encampment support. So we will lean on them for their expertise as well. I see the Salvation Army's team here, and the flex team members are here. So if you have questions, they maybe can help with answering some of those. And then engaging, right? Comprehensive engagement. You can't just go and assess and look at the problem, right? Then you have to engage, inquire. What do you need from us? How do you need it? There's a lot of agencies that have a lot of resources and tools to help with that. Third would be the plan, right? Doing a responsive, intensive response plan. Incorporating all of the agencies in Nashville. Salvation Army can't do it by themselves. Homeless Impact Division cannot do it by ourselves, right? So taking all of the parties involved and leaning on their expertise. So as you roll through the pages here, make sure that you add, delete. If you see somebody that's not mentioned that needs to be added, we'll make sure to add them. Then final is a housing surge. There is some COVID dollars, ESG dollars, that are still in our city. It was a 2-year spend down. We have until September of 2022 to spend the rest of those funds. So that means we have a whole year that we can continue to house people. So there's funds in the city already. Someone else asked what other resources do we have. Not only do we have those funds, but there is a plan that's being designed for the American Recovery Act funds as well. And then second to the last page would be follow-up. So is it a 2-week follow-up, a 30-day follow-up, 45-day, 60-day, 90-day? That's where you guys get to hold us accountable. So not only having community stakeholders involved, not only having Homeless Planning Council involved, also you'll see throughout here it speaks to those with lived experience, right? That is vitally important. We can't make a plan. Someone can't make a plan for my family if they've never lived in my family, correct? So very last page, this is where your information will be collected. Add, delete, subtract, right all over it. And we'll collect these at the end. Someone said, will we pick a plan here? Well, we're going to take ideals from this entire room, from the last 2 charrettes, and incorporate this in this plan as well. Any questions for me?
I just need a clarification. Housing surge. For those of us who aren't in your office, what does that mean? Housing surge is mentioned in all these. I don't know what
Housing. Incorporating housing into everything that we do, whether it's, we're going to be a housing-focused community, not just, so taking resources. If our outreach team is doing something that's housing-focused, it's part of the housing surge. We're not just going to go and pass out a tent. We're not just going to go and pass out a blanket. We want to give them the resources that they need to get a door key. So there's an assessment process. Yeah, there is an assessment process. And then once we get closer to that date, we don't have a date. None of this is dated or identified. Those dates will come from this meeting.
I got one. So April Well, you know me, my name's Dee Dee Bird, I belong with Reclaim Brookmead Park. I love what you've done, but I feel like so much of this has been done before. I know there's a thing called the point in time count that's gonna be done in January, which ought to identify every camp in this city, not just my camp at Brookmead. I call it my camp because we talk to the people that are in that camp. We know what happens to them. I have picked people that have overdosed up off the sidewalk. We have gone to the hospital with people. We have tried to talk to our councilman. He has not responded. This is getting very frustrating for us because I feel like we've done a lot of this. And we have an answer to how to get these people off the street, off the river, off the sidewalks, and into housing. And we've presented it to you, and nothing has been done. And you have got to have the resource people to go in and pull these people out of these camps. They are dying. These people are dying.
Thank you. Let's stay on target, Jim. You ready?
Yeah. So, okay, so you got until 10 minutes after 7. Go ahead and start working in small groups. If you're at a table by yourself, I would recommend that you join another table, okay? All right, go to it. Okay, listen up. We have to be out of here by 8 o'clock again. So here's what we're going to do. Ryan Ellis is back here. Ryan, raise your hands. Okay, he's going to be pointing to the tables and sending people up. Have your spokesperson come up. Elise is standing over here. She's going to help you put your thing up here. And then I'm going to hand the microphone to you. You got 3 minutes. Okay? So we're ready for the first group now. Where is Jay? There he is. No, he's right here. Jay is right there. So what you're doing is you are talking to Jay. Okay? So first group, Brian, send them up. They're coming. You got to pick a spokesperson. You got to be ready to go. Okay, you all ready? Okay, everybody? Okay, good, thank you.
Well, we were here the other two meetings, so we heard a lot of ideas. We really didn't have anything groundbreaking or new, but so what we came up with, create housing units near pre-existing encampments. I think if you move people out, they'll just wander back where they were, especially if they feel safe there. So it was pointed out to me in the group that a lot of those are private lands. So I was thinking if we could at least purchase or turn public lands into, but I think that would be the first thing, to try to keep them in their area where they feel safe currently, if that's possible. Okay, on addressing the public, create an education council to direct Nashville citizens to decrease stigma, myths about homelessness, and answer frequently asked questions. Let's see what else. Utilization of all possible housing, what you were talking about purchasing hotels. And then so we believe the pallet shelters, since they seem to be affordable, can go up quickly. We think that's a good option. And then landlords, I can't exactly remember it, but I think to negotiate with landlords, working with the landlords. And then, what does that mean? Okay.
There's just the utilization of all possible housing.
Okay, utilization of all possible housing options. And even though it's not written, I would like to add, they're going to need security. They're going to need rules still. I mean, it can't be just like an open place where anything goes. So the rules have to be followed, but they're going to need safety services, which I guess was wraparound services. So that's what we have.
Very good, thank you. All right, Ryan, next group. Next group. Yeah. Okay. You don't need a sheet.
So the law enforcement issues need to be law enforcement who choose to work with and for the unhoused. A lot of stigma is around having law enforcement there that's not helping. So we want people who, like our quality of life team comes out with us. They know everybody by name. They're not there to hurt them. They're there to help them in every way possible. They actually connect us to them so that we can make sure that we get them into the HMIS coordinated entry system. We need more access to rehab and mental health services. We also need to hold them accountable. I think this is the first time that this system has ever been truly tested, and they haven't stepped up in the manner that we need them to be. And voucher transferability to surrounding counties. Instead of trying to create places here, let's utilize the places that are close by, such as Robertson County, Cheatham County, all of the counties that are touch Davidson. In order to transfer those now, it's a whole big disgusting process, and it doesn't usually work.
Okay, thank you. Can I have your sheet? Thank you. Okay. All right, next group.
Hello, reluctant spokesman here. Okay, so one thing that we talked about, we had some person with lived experience in our group and talked about wanting to try out some different ideas similar to the ones that have been suggested here in terms of having a place where they can build their own camps and kind of have their thing. So a lot of us aren't big fans of sanctioned encampments, but we do think that it might be a reasonable compromise for there to be a safe place somewhere in town where people can try to develop their own communities without being feared of being shut down or arrested or having their stuff stolen immediately, as long as they're keeping it together. So that was one thing that we said. We all agreed unanimously to raise the cold weather shelter temperature to 32 and keep increasing it if it's working, to maybe get it up to closer to 40, because hypothermia can happen at all different levels and people are dying every year. And so we think, as long as people are using the shelter, let's keep moving that temperature up. Utilize coordinated entry to fill public housing vacancies at least some of the time. So we saw some of the feedback from MDHA. We aren't asking them to take all the people that are on the CE list and move them into the new housing that they're developing, but they can take people from that list instead of having their own list that they operate on a first come, first served basis. And then incentivize landlords to accept more voucher programs. There are some incentives out there, but they're not working. I don't know what it is. I think it's just not enough money, which is sad because money is the hardest resource for us to get. There's a $1,000 sign-in bonus for some different vouchers that we have, but that's not persuading landlords. So do we need to do tax cuts? What do we need to do to get incentives to the landlords on board? And then we also talked about something on here. We talked about whatever the shelter option is, whether it's the Mission, Room in the Inn, Metro Overflow Shelter, they have to be hospitable and show people respect or people aren't going to use them.
All right, next group.
You might go ahead and get two groups coming at the same time so you don't.
Hey, Ryan, there you go.
Hello, my name is Libby Sides. I'm a mental health therapist at Centerstone, and I work with a program called Keys to Recovery that specifically works with people experiencing homelessness and substance use. So this is my first meeting, and I hate talking in front of people, so bear with me. I want to talk really fast, but I did have a really good table back there, and we came up with some really good points. So before this housing project, how do you prioritize and enter folks? And how do you make it feel safe and not crowded? And do you get to choose who you live near? Because these camps are kind of separated into certain groups, and you can't mesh those two groups together, otherwise chaos happens. So how can we continue that into whatever housing program that we decide to do? One size does not fit all. Will there be families, people who aren't ready to leave their camps, people who aren't ready to stop using substances, and people on the registry? All these barriers we have to keep in mind. We need more mobile services specifically for mental health and substance abuse. I myself was a therapist before I became the program manager, and the best thing that I found was being mobile, is meeting people where they were. I was going to camps, I was meeting people at Bojangles, McDonald's, doing therapy with them, because so many times transportation is the only barrier in between them and getting treatment. So if we can eliminate that, that would be the best practice for us. And also there's a shortage in mental health providers, so can we bring that up to the top too? Could be salary, could be company, could be just people don't want to be in this field, but there is a shortage. And then what's the next stepping stone from the housing? Does your stay time out? Do you automatically get a housing navigator assigned to you, a mental health provider, etc.? And we also need better access to obtaining personal documents needed for treatment and housing, because I myself have run into so many barriers and people just can't even get their own social security card, which is ridiculous. And that is it. Thank you.
Next group.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Michelle, and this is Dee Dee, and we know you've been hearing about these shelter villages from us for a little while now, because we're pretty serious about it, and we've done a lot of research on it. And we just want to say our goals would be for the first 90 days to get all the existing encampments down to a maximum of 15 people, get the majority into these shelter encampments. And then by June 15th of next year, we'd like to see that the encampments, the current encampments, are down to 0. And how we propose to do that, and we don't have everything on this list, but this is just a broad outline. We're looking at shelter villages like this, or the hotel remodel would fall into this category as well. First of all, we think you need to count the people, identify how many beds are even needed in the first place. Nobody's been able to come up with a number for us at this time, and hopefully the count in January will do that. Then we need to identify what land, properties, or locations are available to develop, hopefully something that the city already owns. Then get started on the remodel, the construction, or the location. If it's a shelter village, then we need to get excavation and utilities done, and you could use existing departments to do that. Then we need to plan for all the support services to come to that location. And that means nonprofits, shuttle service, mental health and addiction services to come to that central point where all these people will be staying. And once the people start to come to the encampment, the shelter village, triage the people to identify their needs. Everybody's got something different going on. We need to know what it is, and we would like an emphasis on mental health and addiction. Once the location is ready, move the people in. Close down the existing encampments to deter them from going back there again. Park police and the Metro police should be able to enforce that. We also want to say that when laws are broken, consequences need to be significant to deter repeat offences. So we think that there should be first offence, catch and release. We think second offence, a fine, and a participation in a program or community hours. A third offence, I'm sorry, but it's jail with a high bond and a forensic evaluation to determine why they keep doing it. It's just a suggestion. Then we've got here that the homeless are to stay in this temporary location while they wait for permanent housing. There's nothing for them right now. It's either homelessness or permanent housing, and nothing in that gap in between. And these people are in the cold and they're dying in these parks. We want to give them shelter. And then based on the land location for a shelter village, could be 2 or more of these shelter villages placed strategically around the city. That's our plan.
All right, next? Yeah, no, we're going to keep it because we're going to share it with Jay and the Homelessness Planning Council. Okay?
120. Okay, so identify unhoused persons that have been in the HMIS system, but particularly target those who have fallen through the cracks. So if they have a case, they're in the system, they had a case, for some reason they got dropped or they got lost between caseworkers or whatever, identify those. And then also have an external review of HMIS to see, is it the most efficient tool possible? But the bottom line is get a head count of all homeless possible, period. Review policy. Review policy of prioritization. So see what your policy is and how you're prioritizing each case. Who needs the help, what help is needed, act on the low-hanging fruit, or in other words, those who have been through their case and they just need that one last little nudge, like the deposit or something like that. Identify those, because that's where you can get immediate traction. Inventory of metro available housing, if we don't already have all of it. Identify private and or corporate partners to purchase available hotels. So we know that we have those conversations going, but in that first 120 days, take it up another notch and plan to deal. Identify emergency location for shelter during weather incidents like Anthony was talking about. If there's a tornado, there's no reason why we shouldn't already have a plan in place as a city to say, hey, first floor of the garage or the library, that should be pretty easy. We have the keys. Identify a location for a one-stop shop for intake, resource connection, and also have a mobile team component to that could actually hit camps. And we recommend possibly the Juvenile Justice Center. Have a partner to work with MPD personnel that is on outreach or housing navigator. So the same way MPD has mental health workers and everybody right along with them, have somebody who can actually plug them into those resources to ride along also, or that they can call out. External review, we'll talk about that one. Have a listening session with the mayor and the homeless community.
Very good.
Number one, absolute commitment from the mayor to support the resources. A public commitment written in blood. Okay, maybe not blood. But a real commitment from the mayor and the council. We're going to do what it takes. We're not playing around. Number two, we're going to build semi-permanent housing on metro land using existing buildings or the pallets or whatever, but get something temporary out there now. Identify whether we need to lease or buy additional hotels. We know where that's in process, but also look at maybe some empty churches or some of the empty schools to see if they could be utilized. I know when I've talked with the Metro Nashville Public Schools, there are some that are vacant, but they don't necessarily want to let go of them because they may use them as schools again. Maybe those are locations we could temporarily use until the schools are going to use them again. One of the things that we felt has not been mentioned is a marketing campaign, a real PR campaign, so the whole community understands what is the impact on homelessness now on their pocketbook. Because they're spending money now, they just don't necessarily see it. So if we have a marketing campaign, how this impacts our community, how it impacts each and every one of us now, then we realize those same resources could be put towards a solution rather than in just the problem continuing. Getting codes and planning on board so that we can find out what needs to happen so we can adapt spaces for housing. And this is going to take planning and codes to look at alternate ways we can do things. And we need your help to do that. Improve sanitation for the encampments as a temporary measure. So at least right now, we have toilets and we have water and some of the things, so at least they can be at a survival level until we can move them out. Not as a long-term, but just a temporary thing. Provide storage facilities. One of the things that we've heard often is people don't want to leave because they're afraid their stuff will get stolen. so they don't necessarily want to go to the treatment or go to training or whatever. So we need to make sure that there is a safe place for them to store their stuff with a key and they can retrieve it when they need to. We need to look at alternatives to incarceration. I know we have a homeless court, but just seeing how that all can be amped up to a higher level. One of the things that we felt both from having a phone number and a triage center so that the homeless have a place with all the wraparound services, and they need to know how to access those. Those of you that were here when the lady showed up at our first meeting that was homeless, she was very frantic. She didn't even know where to go to start. We already have our 211 system in place. It's not terribly effective. We need to amp that up with the training and the resources, and that number needs to be everywhere, under every bridge, at the bus stations, everywhere, the information on how do you get help if you want it. You shouldn't have to know where to know where to go. And the information needs to be out there. We need to establish a marketing group to help develop a plan to address the not in my backyard scenario. And lastly, we need to coordinate with Hands on Nashville and how volunteers can become involved. Thank you.
So Jay, hi, how are you? We have an overall plan where we talk about through private-public partnerships, open immediate transitional housing or sanctioned encampment sites, and these sites serve as temporary housing and alternatives to encampments. We recommend that you need at least 2 to 3 sites, and they need to be spread out throughout the region. They can't be focused in just one area, and I think you know that. But we really felt like 120 days was too long, that there needs to be work done within the next 30 days. And that's asking a lot, but we understand that. First of all, we just want to affirm what some others have said. The shelter temperature for the cold weather plan needs to move to 32 degrees as quickly as possible. It's down here as well, but we also think that we need to not have a cold weather plan, we need to have an emergency weather plan. That is all throughout the year, so that when tornadoes or floods or other things like that are in place, that there are some sheltering options that have already been thought through. We saw with the flooding down in Southeast that when folks got flooded out, there was nowhere for them to go. And luckily, some places opened up and we got that worked out, but that's got to be thought through on the front end. And this is based out of personal experience, we need to think about the zoning and permanent variances that will allow these alternate buildings to be used, because we're already continuing to find out that the codes and fire marshal process is complex. We believe that there may even need to be some legislative work done that would, in a case of an emergency, allow for some variance from the normal metro codes. And that may be that the council determines that there is a homelessness emergency in our city, and that puts some other things in place that would allow these creative kinds of uses of building to come to fruition, because it's not as easy as just saying we're going to move folks in tomorrow, okay? And I know you agree with that. Somebody mentioned the bus passes. We think WeGo has got to be a partner and understand that they are a partner in addressing the issue of homelessness in our city. They can't. It's not just about getting free bus passes. It's they got to understand themselves as a component to dealing with homelessness, because the reality is we're all spending a ton of money dealing with bus passes. We spend anywhere from $400 to $800 a month. I know a lot of y'all spend a lot more than that. So, but they have to be understood. They're partners, and they've got to be at the table. Excuse me, I'm getting preachy. I got to shut up now. We need to identify the types of shelters to be used: pallets, 3D printing, tiny homes. We got to figure out how we get as many of those as possible. And really, when we are talking about this, we're really talking about a different form of sanctioned encampment, okay? We may not want to call it that, but that's really what it is. We're just talking about getting people warm for the night and in a safe and sanitary place. And so, I mean, you're already doing that work, but we just want to affirm that. Of course, we got to figure out budget and funding sources. which also needs to include money for staff, because, you know, as we've talked about, you know, there are churches that, and I'm going to speak from the faith community perspective here for just a second, there are churches that want to help, but they don't have the people to be able to help with. It's not as easy as just opening your doors. You got to have staff. And most churches, which if we're really honest about in the post-COVID world, most churches that are in somewhat of a numerical decline simply don't have the bodies to fully staff that, and they're going to need assistance along the way. My group didn't say that. I'm just throwing that in on my own. Okay? From 60 to 90 days, we think that there has to be more coordinated work with the various outreach groups. And we know there are some that are already in that sort of continuum of care group, but we also know that there are a lot of organizations that sit outside that are doing homeless ministry or homeless work, and it ends up being duplication. And so we've got to figure out a way to get folks in the room. This is one start, but to get folks in the room to find out what they're doing and when they're doing and how we're not stepping on top of each other. And we think that needs to be a function of the Homeless Impact Division. That ultimately Homeless Impact Division should be really maybe having a staff person that identifies all of the various resources we have and trying to get folks at the table. And if you want to schedule a luncheon or a dinner at City Road Chapel, we're happy to host it any time. And then, of course, we want to identify community engagement coordinator for each side. This is one of the things we found with flood relief, with the VOAD model, was that, you know, I was coordinating relief down in Southeast. There was somebody coordinating in Bellevue. There were regional sort of hubs of services that were being provided. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have a staff person. That may be that you identify who the community leaders are in a particular community and engage them so that they are addressing this problem rather than just putting it all on y'all. How do we, in the various neighborhoods, we know, like in Madison, those of us that live in Madison, we know what the needs are, which are going to be different than in different places. So kind of creating this network of folks where there's some regional coordination at that level. And then, of course, you got to acquire the land and the permits needed to do stuff. What else is on here? Land has to be identified where people can legally exist while they wait to find permanent housing. The Supreme Court has determined that being homeless and living on public land, if you're homeless, is not a criminal offense. And so at some point, we have got to identify those places. They're not going to, we've done the whack-a-mole thing for too long. They're not going to go away. People are not going to go away because they need a place to live, right? Right. And so we've got to identify the places for them to be able to do that. I think that's it.
I gave you more than 3 minutes.
I'm sorry. I'm a preacher.
You're a preacher right now. All right, next. Okay.
Yeah, I'm Terry Anderson. I'm 77 years old, and I represent a small table. So we don't have a big list, but we recognize the need, and I want to say we recognize and appreciate the gifting that's in this room. There's compassion here. There's cooperation in spite of the little tension here and there and some complaints, which we all grumble a little bit, but we shouldn't grumble a lot. We should find solutions instead. So I represent 2 homeless folks and another frontliner. I'm in the camps every day, at least one in particular, providing as a single person, a paint contractor, and I earn enough in my business to support my own mission. It's propane, it's food, it's clothes, it's gloves, you name it. And it's encouragement too, and prayer as a matter of fact. So my observation is this, and my contribution from our little table, our unique little table, is that we need a superintending agent over all of these great ideas that man's wisdom puts together. And I honestly, now you have to understand, I'm telling the truth. I really respect everybody in here and what I've heard. I see acumen, I see talent, I see discipline, I see accomplishments, I see diligence, I see, man, great ideas. And I just really do, and I mean that. That's why I'm willing to be, it may be a fool to stand up here and say what I'm saying, but I respect and honor everybody here for the fact that you're here. This is my third meeting, and I'm just observing, and I believe that a superintending agent over all the man's wisdom and plans is God himself, the creator, not the creation. That's my proposal that we consider. In our table, Pastor Jay, I'm kind of a pastor, call me Papa Terry, because of my gray beard, but I'm not a pastor, but I'm pastoral hearted, so Jay understands too, and we prayed at our table. We might be the only one last time that prayed for the Lord's wisdom, and I believe there's a lot of us in here that believe in prayer and have seen answers every day. So I'm suggesting that somebody, a few, well, it doesn't matter how many, we might form a little group, not a religion. It's not even 12 steps, although that's a good program because they honor a higher power than what we can contribute. So I'm suggesting we might gather some of us that have faith and prayer to do that. Just pray to the Father, the Creator, for his help in giving us wisdom from above to handle the plans of men. Because Scripture says this, the wisdom of men is foolishness with God. I walked with the Lord for 51 years. Like I say, I'm 77 years old. I played blues music in San Francisco in 1969 at the Fillmore, and Jimi Hendrix Center with my band, etc. That's not kudos to me. It's just that that's the era that I lived through. So I've been around, I've seen a lot, and my passion is to help serve people, which is the Lord's passion too. And there's enough people in here that would agree. In agreement, in unity, there's power, even more than all our best ideas. So I'm suggesting we, and I'm not going to be the man to head it up, but I'd like people to join me in at some point, maybe get together at a table afterwards and sign up, and we'll get together and pray. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever the Lord leads. That's all. I just think we need superintending from above.
She'll take it. Elise will take it. That's kind of make it work.
My table got chipped. We didn't get sticky paper. Who do I complain to? Jay? So, a lot of the points have already been raised tonight that we brought up, but we just quickly jotted down, identify available city-owned sites for potential transitional housing, and in parentheses there's supervised housing. And some of that work has already been done. I suspect, Jay, that you have, remember we're talking to you, right? I suspect that you have better access to those resources than we do, or these people do that wrote this up. So identify those. There's probably quite a few. We think these types of housing could be utilized throughout the city, not just one in various places. Do a cost analysis in the next 120 days, right? Do a cost analysis for the infrastructure for a facility like this, or hotels, or whatever's the fastest thing to get these people out of the cold and to get these businesses in the areas around these people back functioning normally, and to get the neighborhoods back functioning normally. And in my case, which is I live near Brookmead Park, to get the park back functioning normally for the public. Do a cost analysis for the structures in here. I've heard, I don't know this, I've heard that these little houses, little pallet houses cost about $7,500 each. I would think that would be, I would venture to say I could have that information for you inside of a week.
85 to 25.
There you go. And you're going to need other housing around it, some community buildings and things of that nature. You know, you need plumbing, electricity, all of that needs to be in there. So a cost analysis for all that. Utilize, I think that, I don't know how many people actually read this. When I sat down, I read through it very quickly. And first reading, I was like, oh, okay. But then when I started thinking of it in terms of your question and in terms of the work that Brookmead has already done and that whoever's talking about the hotels have already done, and if you apply it to those principles, this is a really good document. The plan is there. So utilize this plan. It's got really good information in it. Develop a public-private partnership for raising dollars. Somebody already mentioned that. I would think in a town like Nashville with all these
big companies coming in, Oracle and Amazon and stuff like that, they would love the PR of being involved in something like this, you know, and it'd be good PR for them. And we all know with the way corporate dollars are making these days, they got the money to spend. We get buy-in from various service providers, mental health, recovery programs, medical assistance, VA services, job services, educational. We have a young lady, Ginger, at our table that works for Nashville State, and they offer for a free associate's degree, free 2 years associate's degree. That can all be on site at something like this, weekly, monthly, daily, all the time, whatever. Develop a transportation plan for availability at housing communities. Somebody already mentioned that. They need, WeGo needs to be calling on a place like this. You know, we've heard that a lot. And I don't know, where I grew up, they have a word for this. You know, they say, ain't nothing to it but to do it, okay? Get your ass in gear and start working on it. Let's put a stake in the ground, okay? It's just that simple. And I just wanted to echo one thing that I heard here tonight. I came here tonight, guns loaded, ready to be angry about the lack of accountability at the park in my neighborhood, and for the city council people that are around that park. They're not doing a damn thing, and there needs to be some accountability because there's bad things going on in that park, and there needs to be accountability for those bad actors in that park. Anthony hit on it. There are bad people. It's a predator and prey situation in many of these parks. And by God, it's got to stop. We got to start doing something. You can't talk about criminalizing the homeless. There's criminals in there criminalizing themselves, and they have to be held accountable. So that's my 2 cents.
So I wanted to give a nod out to all the nonprofits out there. You guys are working nonstop. And I don't know if other people in this room know how much, especially in the winter months, I mean, everyone's burning it at both ends. And I think that the biggest problem we have right now is I think we have money. We have money right now in this city. The other resource that we need is people. And it takes a lot to get people from the point where you hire them to where they can do this work. And I see that as being a big bottleneck. I'm chair of the shelter committee, so naturally we're advocating for that shelter to open at 32 degrees and other extreme weather events. And we've been advocating for that. When I talk to these people who are good people, the biggest bottleneck is it's a heavy lift. Where do we find the people to work these shelters? So one of the things, Jay, you're great at doing this kind of stuff. And I know you are, and I think you're here for a reason. Because I think if Nashville doesn't address this now, it's going to get in front of us too far. It's already almost there. You got to go big. You got to broaden your sphere of influence. You cannot do this all. A lot of people are giving you all this work to do, and my brain is just turning to mush thinking about how you're going to do all this. So I look at all the Brookmead people here. All these people have done all this work, spent a lot of time. Hire every single one of them. Teach them all how to do HMIS, do one big training, make HMIS easier, and send them into that camp and let them do the intake for you. Okay? We could do that in all the neighborhoods, right?
We're going. We've signed up for the point in time camp.
Okay, I'm not talking about point in time. There's a whole other level to this. Okay. But do you see what I'm saying? If there's a way that, anytime you come to an obstacle, why couldn't we hire them? Because of this. Well, how do we get around this? How do we come to an obstacle, get around it? We have a lot of people in this room, and there's a lot of people in churches. These outreach ministries, oh my gosh, taking food and every single week. We got to figure out how to get these people to go out there, get the information, and then hire them to work these shelters, hire them to move people in. We've got the money this year, right? So we have to get it organized. You have to get someone to organize it, and it can't be you. And hire them. Trevecca has a whole school. I'm always hiring interns from Trevecca. The best kids ever. Hire these kids to do the pieces we can get them to do. Hands-on Nashville, someone else mentioned that. No reason we can't use that to find people to hire to do this kind of stuff. Okay, and then the same thing we have everybody else. Get some land, do it in 3 or 4 places, get these pallet shelters going. every place needs to have an office for Salvation Army, Open Table Nashville, mental health co-op, so we can go out there and do services. Turn the hotels into housing. Just do all those. But the biggest problem you're gonna have is people. And that's, we gotta figure out how to get people and get these people in HMIS. So simplify. Okay.
All right, I think this is the last group.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Jay, for listening tonight. And thank you for Vice Mayor for putting this together. It was a wonderful idea. So we have a few things that we discussed at our table. First would be number 0, creating a website to host all this information that we're working through here. I think that'd be great. I think we discussed that. 32. Good, excellent. Check. Love it. Thank you. 32-degree shelter. Big one. Thank you. From there, Chris had a great idea. We're talking within, I wrote it in 30-day format or 120-day format. Move on siting for tiny homes. He was talking about the old Sound Stadium as a prospective site. I think that's up for consideration. Within 45 days siting, within 60 days approval, ideally, on any community like we're talking about. And within 120 days, we're talking about building. Now, number 2 is, I think, a big one. And I know, Vice Mayor, I would respectfully like to correct you. I don't think there are any members from the HPC here. I think we have COC members, a few of us. But I don't see one HPC member. Is there one back there? Yep. Thank you very much for being here. Please bring this information back to the group. I think we need to fix the Homelessness Planning Council. Thank you. Good question, council member. So I think we need to fix the Homelessness Planning Council. All right. We need to turn it into a fundraising machine. All right. That, when you ask where's the resources, we haven't talked a lot about where the resources are coming from. All right. We can't expect the mayor to have all this money, right? We can't expect the government to give us all this money. But we have the money in the community. We have the money in the people's pockets. We're already giving to our churches. We're already giving to a lot of these nonprofits. We have to just put the money in a pool, all right, and build housing with it. So I would like to ask for the Homelessness Planning Council to commit to raising $500 million in 120 days. And the way to do that would be, and I know it's ambitious, I think it's reasonable, because I think they have access to all the community members in Nashville. And the people they're already giving money to these people. We need to make it work. And I'll tell you what, the Resource Development Committee in the COC, the Continuum of Care, has not met in 4 months. So why isn't the Resource Development Committee even meeting? They're not even focused on raising money. This is ridiculous. So please fix that. And for the 0 to 30% permanent housing, we need permanent housing. All right. So we need to add SMART goals to the strategic plan. All right. You know, SMART goals. Everybody. Yes.
Realistic and time-sensitive.
That's correct. Thank you. So please, I think our current strategic plan is missing SMART goals. Similarly, baseline data. And the words ending chronic homelessness should be in there as a goal. You know, I mean, I think that's reasonable. Adding, similarly, again, with the Homelessness Planning Council, why is there no public comment section in meetings? They don't listen to the public. We can change that immediately. They don't want to hear it. We need to add a public comment section in Homelessness Planning Council meetings. Thank you. We need to be heard. The public wants to be heard. We're here. Record and share all the meetings via Metro's YouTube channel. I know it's difficult to record them, but they need to also, as well as being heard, the public needs to be informed. All right. So we need right now the minutes from Continuum of Care meetings go 5 months without being posted to the website, for example, the Metro's website. That's ridiculous. How did the other members stay informed without without communication? Unless you're at those meetings, you have no idea what's going on. None of the members know. So except for the council member in the back. From there, we go to 60 days approval for pallet homes. 90 days. Anthony here had a great point. Open government agencies that have shut down during COVID. It's very difficult. Accessibility, for example, IRS, DMV, Social Security, food stamps. these are basic fundamentals, and they're difficult to access for people. So please, Anthony's request. And then 120 days, we'll build these units. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, did we miss anybody? All right, so we have to be out of here in about 7 minutes. So a couple things. First of all, I think you all did an exceptional job tonight. Thank you all for participating. You should give yourselves a hand. So just showing up and doing this is great. Councilmember Erin Evans was the person who raised her hand. She's also here. She came in. Okay, so the question is, where do we go from here? What we're going to do is we're going to take all this information, we're going to write it out, and then we're going to send it to Jay and the Homelessness Planning Council. Yeah.
I was just hoping I could hear more from Jay, maybe not tonight, but in the future, just like if he's going to be deciding which one of these he likes best to go forward with, like what criteria he's using to decide. That would be really helpful.
All right, so we're trying to watch our time, so that was kind of the next step. So you're exactly right.
Awesome.
I think we're going to, I was talking to Jay, at some point we're going to ask everybody to come back, okay? Because part of what we have to do is, Jay understands that this group is interested in what's going on. He's going to have to kind of report back. So I'm not sure, Jay, if you have a time frame. We've got everybody's email. I think what Jay has to do is now go back and work on this plan. And at some point when he's ready, and to work with, you're going to coordinate with the Homelessness Planning Council, right?
Yeah, our office is yeah.
Okay. And then I think when Jay's ready, we're going to call everybody back here, and then Jay, with his new job, is going to get up in front of you all and talk about this plan, okay? But I think the best thing I can tell you, Jay, is that there is a push to get this thing done. We really want to move as quickly as possible. Do you have any comments that you want to make at the end? I mean, I just appreciate you sitting there and listening to what these people
Well,
say.
I appreciate everyone being here, to be honest with you. So I'm not going to use the new guy thing forever, but I appreciate everybody being here, because what you did was you educated me more on the need, and then where the focus of the needs, and where we need to take action early. Because I come from I'm a fourth generation survey man that's worked in homelessness now with this job, and I'm passionate about helping people, period. So I want to do the best that we can, and know that I'm going to meet roadblocks, and I'm going to learn how to get around some of those. Some of them are going to be budget, staffing, all that. I would love to set up a pallet shelter home, because I've already done that, and I'm moving in a direction with that, right? But it's the land, who's going to accept it, what district's going to accept it, who's going to fund it, who's going to staff it, right? Because Metro can't do it by itself, and I believe it is a community effort. I really do. I think it's providers, nonprofits, Metro government coming together to figure that out. What do you think about the next meeting being providers? Right, and announce your plan, and then, whatever that plan is, get all the providers in the room and start seeing where we're at as far as the city goes with providers, to see who we could contract. Because I mean, it's not going to take one or two from each agency. So if it's, for example, and forgive me for lack of terminology, but let's just say it's a mental health issue. If there's a mental health company, right, that's willing to grow, and I say, hey, we are looking at a transitional housing development until I get permanent housing, what's it going to take for you to staff that 50-bed community, right? And then approach it that way and sub that part out. To me, that's the way we defeat it's not enough staffing, not enough budget, we come together. And we use some of those funds that are out there to look at that. So I think we might need to look at the providers, then come back as a group together and announce the findings and see how we move forward from that point. Does that, from a strategic plan, yes?
Yeah, I said that's a great idea.
All right, so we got a motion, second.
I second.
Okay. Questions? All ready to go out? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed no.
Okay, good. So that's where I start as your new homeless impact director is that mission there, and figure out where we go from that point. But I don't want to take away from the work that's being done right now, y'all. I mean, there's a lot of work. Be it 1,780 something was what we housed last year. And that's big for Nashville to be able to make that go, but we can do better. I'm not saying that's it. We can do better. And we can get more streamlined and get, I mean, he looked for help and he couldn't find it until he came here tonight, right? That shouldn't be happening. That's right. Right? That's so right. You found help tonight too, right? And there was a lady in the back. So thank you, Mayor Margaret, for being impromptu on that and helping out. She wasn't expecting to do that tonight. But why keep that help happen every day? Let's figure that out, right? And we'll go from there. So thank you.
All right, so everybody's got 1 minute to clear out of here. Chris, we end with what you said. It's like, it's time to act now, right?
What's the timeline?
So we're going to wait for him and we'll get back to you, okay? Because we're not exactly sure.
Until we hear back from you.
I'll let you know. We will let you know. Everybody have a good holiday. Okay, be safe.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.